Thanks, Om. You know, I'm happy to be joined right here in studio with the NBA champion himself, Kendrick Perkins, and, of course, the Basketball Hall of Famer, Mike Wilbon. Wilbon, let's start with you. CP3 expected to return tonight. What kind of impact you expect him to have?
The kind of impact he had all season, the kind of impact that led them to second seed in the entire NBA in terms of record. Listen, you look at game 2, and the Suns win this game, but Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, and Jay Crowder shot 7 for 26, Stephen A. We know who's going to get them better shots. You know, the cliche, he makes everybody better. It doesn't apply to anybody more than it applies to Chris Paul, and particularly in this season. You look at those three guys right there. You think that Devin Booker's going to have more turnovers than baskets? That's what happened in game 2. More turnovers, 7 to baskets, 5. That's not happening tonight.
What about you, Perk?
You know, when I look at CP3 and his effect, we have to all remember when he left the Clippers, that was a bad breakup. So him coming into this game tonight, remember, he's on a mission. He wants to beat these guys. And like Wilbon just said, Stephen A., look, those guys in that locker room, they're going to feel that energy with CP3 back on the floor. And if the Clippers couldn't beat them without CP3, what you think is going to happen tonight?
Before I move on to my second question, Mike Wilbon, I think we got to take just a moment here to give Big Perkins some props there. The suit game is kind of fly right there. The shirt with the tie. Very nice, Big Perk. I want to give you some love. Very nice. But I'll ask both of you this question real quick before I go to my next question. Patrick Beverley, we know what a pest he could be on the defensive end of the floor. Paul George, he's capable of defending. Reggie Jackson is not a slouch per se. And Chris Paul's been out the last 2 games. Could Russ potentially be a factor with CP3, either of you guys?
I don't see it happening. I mean, at the end of the day, we know that he's been in his home in L.A., but we also know that he has a full-court basketball court there. So CP3 has probably been working out. He's a true professional, Stephen A.
He hadn't been out 2 weeks. He's been out 2 games. And not only that, that shoulder probably feels better. Perk would know more about this. Probably feels better than any time since the playoffs started because he's gotten some rest and treatment and practice. So I don't see Russ being a problem for long, maybe a half. That's about it.
Let me transition to an uncomfortable subject because I love Paul George. I think he's class personified, and obviously I think he's a star in this league, but he has something to prove coming into this postseason. And from the moment Kawhi went down, 31, 31, 37 points, the last 3 games of the semifinal series against Utah, had 26, he had 26 in game 2 the other night. We know what he brought to the table, but we also saw him miss 2 pivotal free throws, 8.2 seconds left, missed both. The only time this year in over 100 tries that he missed back-to-back free throws was in February. Big Perk, I'll start with you. How big was the opportunity missed by Paul George when he missed those 2 late free throws?
Well, you know it's crazy because he had been playing so well, but when you look at him at the free throw line, knew he was going to miss the second one because he was blowing in his hands. He was nervous. He was nervous like me going into the Catholic Church and have to go repent my sins in front of the priest. That's how nervous Paul George was. But, you know, at the end of the day, you know what I don't like, and the great Doc Rivers always used to tell us, everyone, and including myself, I'm falling victim into this. Everyone looks at the last possessions of the game and forget what happens in the first, second, and third quarter. And I hate that he got put in that position, but with that being said, Kevin Garnett used to tell me, this is why we get paid the big bucks. We deliver in the fourth quarter when it matters the most.
Wilbon?
Sometimes should have is followed by redemption. You get that chance back. Sometimes should have is just should have. And that's the question now about the Clippers. They should have gotten game 2. But now you have the circumstances changing where Kawhi doesn't come back and Chris Paul does, and Paul George has this. I loved his demeanor after the game. We talked about, what happened, missing the free throws and come back the next game. But sometimes you don't get that chance back. The Clippers had 2 chances to take advantage of Chris Paul's absence and did not. And what happens next?
And I'm waiting for people to acknowledge this, guys. The Phoenix Suns are not the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz had a superstar in Donovan Mitchell, but surrounded by a bunch of people because Mike Conley was out. Mike Conley Jr. was out. So he was surrounded by a bunch of people who needed him to create shots for them. That's not the Phoenix Suns. It's nice to have CP3 creating shots for you, but Devin Booker doesn't need CP3 to create a shot for him. Cameron Payne doesn't need CP3, and that's his sub. That's his backup. You don't necessarily need stuff like that if you're the Phoenix Suns, and that's the difference. And that, with Kawhi Leonard's absence, Clippers in a world of trouble. They better win tonight. I'm just going to tell y'all right now.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.